Hi everyone. It has been a while since my last video. I think the last one I posted was at the beginning of October, and that was very unintentional. A few days after that, I got a new puppy, which was very unexpected. I don't think I've really talked about it here on YouTube, but I have talked about it on the podcast that I host. And I lost my previous dog, Sam, last November. He was 14 and a half. He was a great dog. I feel like he was my soul dog. I miss him tremendously. And I actually didn't think I was ready to get another dog, but life has a funny way of throwing things at you when you least expect it. And I wound up with a new puppy. Yeah, about a week after that last video aired. He is pure chaos. His name is Joey, and he will be 5 months old in a week on January 6th. He'll be 5 months old. Um, so it has been exhausting. The house was not puppy proofed. I wasn't planning on getting another dog until next summer. Uh, yeah, and he is a little bit of a demon, but he's so much fun and he's very cute. I will introduce you to him soon, but it's really hard to record with him being active around me, and he is always active. He is the busiest dog I have ever had. He doesn't really nap. He's just constantly on the go, doing things, checking things out. He's in the teething stage, so he chews everything. Most of the time when I'm in my studio, I actually have a baby uh like playpen type thing around me so he can't get to me because he's obsessed with trying to chew on my chair. Not just chew on it, but rip it apart. And it's just something that puppies go through. If you've ever had a puppy, you know that they are little chew monsters until they finish teething, which is probably at least a month away with him right now. So it's a bit hectic. And it really meant that for Q4, I didn't have much time to do anything beyond what I needed to do with for client work and all of that. I wound up canceling all of my markets, my holiday markets, because he was too young to leave at home on his own all day. And he was too young to be fully vaccinated yet. So I couldn't leave him with anyone else. So anyway, we got through all that, and it was unfortunate that I couldn't do markets, especially with the Canada Post strike, which meant that I didn't have a very good sales season online. Really, online sales just dropped off a cliff. Even though I had other shipping options available to me for most of what I sell, there's a few things that I do sell that were letter mail only and under 100 grams, and that just there was no viable option. But for other things, I did have viable options, and I think people just really shied away from ordering online this year because of the strike for so many reasons. Which probably in the end wasn't a bad thing because I was just so overwhelmed time-wise. And I had all these great ideas for videos that I was going to do, and I just couldn't do them, unfortunately. But I'm back today because I wanted to share with you something that I did do in December that was really fun for me and very creatively fulfilling and got me uh, creating away from digital creations, which is most of what I have been doing lately. I've been doing a lot of digital illustration. And as much as I love the finished effect of my digital illustration and how easy it is to turn digital illustrations into cards and stickers and all of that, I really, really missed the tangibleness of pen on paper or marker on paper or paint on paper. And I really wanted to get back to that. I wanted to spend more time in my sketchbooks. I have so many beautiful sketchbooks that I never use because I tend to get a little bit precious about my sketchbooks. I don't know how many of you can relate to this, but if you can, let me know in the comments. Um, just you have these really lovely sketchbooks and you're afraid to put things in them because you don't want to mess them up. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud because it's called a sketchbook. Like the sketch part is right in the name. It's just meant for sketching stuff. It's not meant for finished artwork. And it's so silly, but I have this beautiful moleskin sketchbook that I absolutely love. I did one spread in it when I got it, which was well, this is not this current, not this was not May 2024. I think this was May 2022, if I'm really honest. And that was the only page that I had done in this book. And I had an idea that the entire book would be like this. I would use it to document each day. And of course, I never did. Um, yeah, I just didn't. So, yeah, I'm sure many of you can relate. So I started thinking about like, how can I incorporate more of a sketchbook practice into my overall creative practice? I did a 365 project last year. I got to day 212 or 213 by before I was completely burnt out. And I realized from doing that that 365 was just too much for me. I've done several 100-day projects and finished them and found them to be really, really uh, beneficial to me. But the 365 project just didn't hit in the same way. And I've been thinking a lot about why that was. And I think, given with what I decided to do here and what I learned from that 365 project and from past 100-day projects, what really works for me is to create in very small, tiny, even manageable bites. Um, Creating a fully finished art piece is not something I can easily do in a day. And that's why I was burnt out from the 365 project. My pieces seemed to they started out very simple, but seemed to get more and more complex as the year went along, to the point where I just somehow couldn't pull myself back and go back to simple. And I was just burnt out by the end of it. So it was also digital, and I find digital very tiring as well mentally. It's kind of like scrolling on your phone. You realize you've scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, but you haven't really seen anything, but you're tired at the same time. It's kind of how I felt. So, so I thought, what could I do instead? And two things happened that gave me an idea. One was a friend asked me if I was going to do a calendar for 2025. And I thought I had the artwork here on my desk, but it appears that I don't. I was going to show it to you. Anyway, I was not planning to do a calendar for 2025. I have thought about doing them in the past, and I even created an illustration for October, November, and December that I thought would be cute for it. And each of those illustrations was just a little small square. I'll show you I do have this, um, a square about this size. These are Strathmore artist tiles that I use. And I had created small little doodles of things relating to that month. So for October, it was things like turkey, pumpkins. Thanksgiving is in October in Canada, so it was turkey. And other, fall leaves, that kind of thing. November had like a poppy for Remembrance Day and some other things. And December had Christmas themed things. So, and they turned out really cute. But they were old. They were illustrations that I had done maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and my skill set is different now. My style is a little bit different, and I just thought, if I was going to do something like that, I would have to recreate it. So that kind of was percolating in the back of my head. And then I also came across this woman who creates these cross stitch pieces or embroidery pieces that are fairly large, but she includes a little tiny piece of embroidery or cross stitch. I think she does cross stitch. Can't remember. There's lots of people who do this out there, but this particular woman, I think she did cross stitch. Anyway, she did a little tiny cross stitch to represent her day. And so at the end of the year, she has 365 tiny little pieces of embroidery that encapsulate her whole year. And they're tiny, like maybe 10, 15 stitches, like really, really small, something that you could do in a very short amount of time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. And I started putting those two things together and thought, what if I did something like that in my sketchbook, but for Advent? I didn't buy myself an Advent calendar this year. So what if I created my own Advent calendar, but for the month of December? And so I made myself a list, which is right here. And it was just on some scrap paper of all the different prompts I could use for an Advent themed calendar. And it would be December 1st to December 25th. And uh and I thought, why not just do it all in one page in my sketchbook? Sort of kind of like the embroidery lady. And so that is what I did. And I'll show it to you here so that you can see it. Here it is. Each illustration represents a different day. Um, and the final illustration is the string of lights that's woven all through it. That was for December 25th. And I did it with ink and watercolor, which I don't know why I chose watercolor. I am not a I am a watercolor neophyte. I am not an expert. I'm also very impatient. So waiting for watercolor to dry was probably not the best choice. And I definitely messed up the first few illustrations because I was very impatient and didn't wait until what I needed to be dry was dry before adding in the next color. And so, yeah. But by the end of it, I kind of liked the feel of it and the fact that it forced me to slow down. But each illustration took me maybe 15 minutes. And probably if I had just done ink and paper, they would have taken me about 5 minutes. If I had done ink and pencil crayon or colored marker, it would have taken me 10 minutes. Watercolor added an extra 5 minutes on. So it was really fun. And the best thing is I did it for me. I didn't do it with the intention of sharing it. Ironically, I am sharing it with you here now, but I had planned initially to not share it at all. Then I thought I'll just share each illustration as I do it on my Instagram stories. So I didn't do it in my feed on Instagram. It was just in my stories for people who wanted to follow along. And once every 7 days, I would post in my feed a picture of the page and the where I was in the progress. So each 7 day period, there was three of them. Um, it got more and more filled in to the point where now that it's filled in, honestly, it makes me so happy. It makes me ridiculously happy. It's not particularly great art, but I had fun doing it. It was so great to just sit down every day. And when I initially started it, I did them in the evening when the light was terrible, but I had more time. And I thought, it would be better if I did this in the morning, I would have better light. And so that's what I decided to do. And actually, I loved doing them in the morning. It was such a great way to start my day to know that before I did anything else, I had created. So, we keep hearing create more than you consume. This is a great way to get started with that. Start your day creating. It was a really nice way to kind of just sit at my desk and before I did any client work or anything like that, and just make something for me. And yeah, it makes me so happy. So I've been thinking about other themes I can do for different points in my sketchbook and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. And it was a really fun way to kind of get back into the groove of creating every day and doing something for me and doing work that fulfills me. There is just something for me, like I said, about how tactile um, working on paper is for me. And I just don't get that same feeling from working digitally. I enjoy working digitally. Like I said, I like the finished result. I like that my line work is so perfect when I'm working digitally. It is not perfect when I'm working in my sketchbook, but there's also a lot of charm to imperfection. And I think we forget that sometimes. I find when I do create digitally, my work tends to have a little bit of a generic quality to it. And I find a lot of digital artwork is that way because it's so clean and perfect. Even though as the artist we may see a million imperfections with it, it has a very clean, almost manufactured feel to it. That sounds really weird, but that's kind of what I think of is like it's manufactured. It looks like it's from a coloring book or something like that, which is sound that's not, I don't mean to make that sound insulting because that's not where I'm going with this or anything like that, but it doesn't have the same feel to it. So I just want to do more traditional type work um, in 2025 for myself, not necessarily to turn into anything that I sell. I still do think creating digitally is one of the easiest ways to get your work onto products that are commercially viable as a working artist or illustrator. And so I think there's definitely a place for that. But I also just really enjoyed working with a paintbrush and water and forcing myself to slow down while I wait for paint to dry. So, yeah, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. And I think it was just a really great little bite-sized project. Everything about it was bite-sized. It wasn't a full month. It wasn't 100 days. It wasn't 365 days. It was 25, including Christmas Day. Um, that was very bite-sized and manageable. I knew there was an endpoint and I knew it wasn't too far off. The illustrations themselves were very bite-sized. They were easy to do quickly during a very brief moment in time. And I really liked doing them all on one page because at the end, I felt like I had created a big piece of art from lots of little pieces of art. And there was something very satisfying about that. And I'm just gonna be honest, I just loved all the color. It made me happy. It made me happy in a very dull month. I think that's why we celebrate things like Christmas and Diwali and other types of celebrations in the winter, and they all revolve around light because it's so dark, so gloomy that we need some color. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with all of you and let you know that that's what I was working on, seeing as I couldn't be at markets and do a lot of the other things that we normally do in December as artists and creatives. And I'm kind of hoping to continue on with it in the new year and create other little short themed projects that I can do in my sketchbook. If you have ideas for ones that I could do, pop them in the comments. I'm always looking for some inspiration, and I'll continue to share each individual doodle in my Instagram stories, and then share the finished piece. But uh, yeah, I'm gonna put myself first for this one and do it for me first and everybody else second. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more small business illustrator diary type vlogs from somebody who is doing this later in life rather than earlier in life. So it's kind of a little bit different to start a business like this when you are in the middle of your life rather than at the beginning part of your life. So yeah, hope you enjoy this and I will talk to you all soon.